Have you ever wondered what the smartphone you use every day to watch videos has in common with the supersonic fighter jet that breaks the sound barrier several kilometers above the ground? The answer is a metal, but not just any metal. It's a material born of fire and vacuum, so strong that it protects submarines in the crushing depths of the ocean, and so pure that the human body accepts it as a part of itself. This is titanium, an element that surrounds us, but whose origin is one of humanity's most epic industrial sagas. Transforming simple grayish sand into this super material requires mastering temperatures higher than volcanic lava and creating a vacuum even more perfect than that of space. How did humanity manage to forge from Earth's dust a metal with almost godlike qualities? This is the story of how we tame the untamable to make it the backbone of our most advanced technology. Titanium's journey doesn't begin in a futuristic laboratory, but in the heart of vast, wild landscapes. It's the ninth most abundant element in the Earth's crust, meaning it's everywhere, and yet nowhere at the same time. It isn't found in shiny nuggets like gold. It hides in plain sight, locked away in minerals resembling ordinary dark sand, called ilmenite and rutile. The hunt for this hidden treasure is an undertaking of titanic proportions. On some coastlines, the method is almost primally brutal. Huge water cannons blast jets of water with the force of a hurricane, literally disintegrating the sand dunes. The sound is a continuous roar as tons of sand are churned into churning mud. Here, physics does most of the work. Titanium particles, being much denser, sink quickly, while ordinary sand, being lighter, is carried away by the current. It's like sifting through an entire beach to find grains of gold. Except here, the quest is for gray powder. In the mainland mines, the scale becomes even more staggering. Giant excavators as tall as three-story buildings, with claws capable of swallowing a car, methodically remove the topsoil. They dig craters so vast they are visible from space. Transport trucks, each capable of carrying the weight of 100 family cars, ensure a continuous flow between the mine and the processing plant. For every kilogram of titanium that ends up in a high-tech product, tens of tons of rock and earth must be moved. It's a Herculean effort, consuming colossal amounts of energy and water, all to convince the earth to yield one of its best-kept secrets. Once extracted, the raw ore is still just a chaotic mixture of sand, gravel, and precious titanium minerals. Then begins the critical purification phase, a multi-stage process akin to peeling back, layer by layer, the armor of an ancient warrior to reveal the pure metal at its core. The first stage is separation by gravity. Imagine shaking a jar filled with sand and small pebbles. The heavier ones sink to the bottom. Now transpose this idea to basins the size of Olympic swimming pools, where the mineral sludge is relentlessly churned. The denser titanium sinks, while the lighter impurities are washed away. What remains is already much richer, but still far from pure. Then comes the invisible force of magnetism. The concentrate travels along conveyor belts beneath enormous electromagnets, so powerful they could lift a car. These magnets act like an ultrafine comb, removing every single iron particle that might have mixed with the ore. Iron is titanium's mortal enemy. A minute trace is enough to compromise an entire batch. Finally, the most delicate step, flotation. It's a true chemical alchemy. The concentrate is mixed with water and special reagents in huge tanks. These products possess a fascinating property. They bind to impurities like silica, but completely ignore titanium. Fine air bubbles are then injected. The impurities, coated by the reagents, attach to the bubbles and rise to the surface, forming a scum that is scraped off and discarded. What remains at the bottom is a dark, dense powder. With over 90% pure titanium dioxide, this simple gray dust has become a strategic resource ready to withstand fire. Every step is a battle for purity, where the slightest mistake can jeopardize everything. We now have a powder of exceptional purity, but it is still only a promise of metal. To give it substance and strength, a ritual of fire and chemistry is required. A process so ingenious that it revolutionized metallurgy, the Kroll process. This process does not take place in open furnaces, but in immense, sealed steel reactors, veritable industrial vaults. Inside, the atmosphere is saturated with argon gas because hot titanium is so reactive that even air could contaminate it. First, titanium dioxide is heated to nearly 1,000 degrees Celsius, then exposed to chlorine gas. This reaction transforms it into a liquid, titanium tetrachloride. Then comes the magic moment. Molten magnesium, an even more reactive metal, is introduced. A veritable atomic battle ensues. The magnesium strips away the chlorine atoms, thus releasing pure titanium. It's a chemical dance where one metal sacrifices itself to free another. For hours, titanium slowly deposits on the cold walls of the reactor. When the process is complete, what emerges is not a shiny ingot, but a gray, porous, and surprisingly light mass, resembling a sponge or a piece of coral. This metal is titanium sponge, rough, fragile, and full of cavities. But this is its birth. This is the first time titanium has assumed its metallic form. Still imperfect, raw, but already alive, the heart of the supermetal begins to beat. The titanium sponge must now undergo its final purification in an environment mimicking the vacuum of space. The vacuum arc remelting, or VAR, process. It is this step that elevates titanium to the status of a supermaterial. The sponge is crushed, cleaned of all salt residue, and then compressed under thousands of tons into a dense block that serves as a giant electrode. The electrode is suspended in a hermetically sealed copper furnace. All the air is extracted to create a near-total vacuum. Oxygen is titanium's worst enemy. At high temperatures, a single atom could make it brittle. Then the show begins. An electrical discharge of colossal intensity creates a luminous arc between the electrode and the base of the furnace. An artificial lightning bolt, brighter than the sun, generating thousands of degrees. The arc melts the tip of the electrode, drop by drop. Each drop of liquid titanium falls into a water-cooled copper mold. Slowly, very slowly, the ingot takes shape, patiently built over hours. This perfect cooling eliminates bubbles and impurities, which evaporate in the vacuum. In the end, all that remains is a perfect cylinder of pure titanium, shiny, dense, almost indestructible. If the Kroll process was its birth, this is its baptism. But the ingot, despite its purity, is still just a raw block. To become useful, it must be shaped, a combination of titanic strength and surgical precision. It begins by being heated to over 1,000 degrees Celsius until it takes on a cherry orange hue. Robotic arms move it to the forging press. Under a pressure of 50,000 tons, the weight of an aircraft carrier, the metal is hammered with regular blows. Each impact not only shapes the form, but also reorganizes its internal structure, aligning the crystals to make it even stronger. Once forged into bars or plates, the precision phase begins, machining. And machining titanium is a legendary difficult task. It's like carving granite with a pocket knife. The metal is so hard and conducts heat so poorly that the cutting tool overheats and nearly melts. That's why the entire process is bathed in a constant flow of coolant. In CNC machining centers, diamond-tipped tools perform a robotic ballet of extreme precision. Each trajectory, programmed in thousands of lines of code, removes material with micron-level accuracy, thinner than a human hair. It is in this dance between power and finesse that titanium finally takes its final form. An aircraft turbine blade, a surgical screw ready to fuse with human bone, or the elegant case of a luxury watch. Thus ends the journey from raw rock to machine perfection. The same titanium, born from gray sand on the edge of a distant beach, having survived the fire of jet engines and the absolute vacuum, returns to our hands. Consider the smartphone again. The camera lingers on its structure, the thin titanium framework that gives it lightness and strength. Then the scene widens. We see that same metallic glint in the blade of an aircraft turbine, spinning at dizzying speed. We see it in the hull of a submarine, gliding silently through the dark depths. And we discover it in a medical implant, integrated into a human being's body, restoring movement and life. Titanium's journey from raw stone to perfection is far more than an engineering feat. It's a tribute to human ambition, a symbol of our ability to transform nature's most rebellious elements into instruments that push the boundaries of what's possible. The story of titanium proves that, from Earth's minerals, we can forge conquests that reach the heavens and dominate the abyss. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our content. But don't go away just yet, there's more. The rest of this video will be just as exciting, so stay with us until the end.
Around 200,000 tons of aluminum are produced every day. The United States alone consumes more than 4.6 billion kilograms per year. To meet this colossal demand, millions of tons must be processed. But how does a reddish rock transform into one of the most precious metals on the planet? In this video, you will discover where aluminum comes from and how it is made. Without it, civilization could not survive. This marvel of engineering is everywhere. Aluminum is an essential element of airplanes, automobiles, and high-voltage cables that carry electricity to our homes. Unlike iron, which oxidizes and deteriorates over time, aluminum forms a layer of aluminum oxide on its surface that protects it from corrosion. It is 3 times lighter than steel. Thanks to its low density and high strength, it became the main material for aeronautical construction. However, it was only in 1807 that British chemist Humphrey Davy first identified a metal in a salt called alum. Its identification was easy, but isolating it proved a major challenge. It took about 20 years for Danish chemist Hans Christian Ørsted to extract the metal. Yet the process was so complex and costly that at the beginning of the 19th century, aluminum was worth more than gold. Napoleon III even used aluminum cutlery for his most important guests, while the others had to settle for gold. Everything changed in 1886 when a discovery made aluminum accessible and affordable. 2 scientists working independently, the Frenchman Paul Héroult and the American Charles Martin Hall, developed an electrochemical extraction process still used today. They discovered that by dissolving aluminum oxide in a salt called cryolite and applying electricity, the oxygen atoms separated, leaving metallic aluminum behind. This method made it possible to produce aluminum in bulk at a much lower cost, thus revolutionizing the industry. But where does aluminum come from? It lies just beneath our feet. It attracts miners because it is the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust, making up more than 8% of its composition. However, aluminum does not exist in its pure state in nature. Unlike gold and silver, it does not appear as nuggets or veins. It is found only in deposits of reddish bauxite. The richest deposits are located in Australia, Guinea, Brazil, and Jamaica. The Alcoa mine is located in the heart of the Australian mountains. These mountains are mainly composed of bauxite and form the largest mine of this, or in the world, with about 23 million tons extracted per year. However, most bauxite deposits cannot be exploited without first drilling through an underground rock barrier more than 5 meters deep. This requires explosives powerful enough to demolish a 10-story building. The rock is first drilled, then the explosive, made of ammonium nitrate combined with fuel, is inserted. Each month, they use between 700 and 900 tons of ammonium nitrate. Thousands of tons of ore containing aluminum oxide are blasted every day. Each explosion opens about 2 hectares of land and releases between 50,000 and 100,000 tons of ore. Each ton of ore may contain only a few kilograms of aluminum. A large quantity of bauxite must therefore be processed to produce a single ingot. To obtain 1 ton of aluminum, about 4 tons of bauxite are needed. Extraction requires billions of dollars of investment. Today, the price of aluminum is $2.65 per kilogram, and the mining industry invests in large-scale equipment. This excavator is the largest in the world, costing more than $20 million, making it one of the most expensive. Off-road trucks can transport up to 270 tons of bauxite, and the excavator loads 1 ton in just 3 moves. A truck arrives empty and leaves loaded in only 1 minute. The trucks then unload the ore at the processing plant. To extract aluminum from the ore, a refining process called the Bayer process is used. A conveyor belt deposits the ore into a giant rotating drum where enormous steel balls grind it into a fine powder. The bauxite powder is then mixed with a caustic fluid that separates the aluminum oxide from the rest, producing a concentrated aluminum oxide solution. And then comes the most surprising part. This solution dries and forms sandy crystals called alumina, the substance from which aluminum is made. The next step is to isolate the aluminum from the oxygen. To do this, the alumina is transported to an Alcoa production plant. A loaded ship leaves port every 3 days. The alumina it carries will be transformed by a smelter into 35,000 tons of pure aluminum. Every 3 days, a ship arrives with about 100,000 tons of alumina. Its contents are then completely sucked up by a massive industrial vacuum that extracts about 300 tons per hour, emptying the ship in about 5 hours. The material is then deposited onto conveyor belts and transported to the plant where the alumina is introduced into large electrolytic cells filled with molten cryolite. Cryolite lowers the melting point of alumina from 2050 degrees C to about 950 degrees Celsius. To obtain pure aluminum, it is necessary to separate the oxygen atoms that hold it tightly together. This process requires enormous amounts of electricity. That is why aluminum is called electricity in solid form. Electricity consumption represents about 1/3 of the cost of 1 kilogram of aluminum. The energy used by the plant to power the cells could supply 300,000 households. In total, more than 340 megawatts of electricity are consumed each year to produce aluminum. In the electrolytic cells, a low-voltage, high-intensity electric current is applied through carbon anodes and a cathode, thus triggering electrolysis. Electricity flows through copper rods connected to the cells. The aluminum oxide molecules they contain are composed of 2 aluminum atoms and 3 oxygen atoms. The electric current breaks these bonds, separating the atoms. The oxygen rises to the surface of the container and reacts with the carbon anodes to form carbon dioxide, while the denser aluminum sinks to the bottom. After electrolysis, the molten aluminum at about 950 degrees Celsius is separated from the cryolite by suction pumping. This process takes place in continuous cycles every 36 hours to extract the metal from the cells. Once extracted, the liquid aluminum is transferred into a transport crucible, a thermally insulated container designed to maintain the metal's temperature and prevent premature solidification. In the refining furnaces, the aluminum is reheated to remove the remaining impurities using processes such as filtration, which eliminate unwanted elements like hydrogen and oxides. The pure aluminum is then cast into molds to form ingots, then subjected to controlled cooling to ensure solidification without structural defects. Once ready, the ingots are sent to various industries where they become product for the automotive, aerospace, and construction sectors.